the moment. I'm just there's been a lot going on. I mean, me and Missile have been pulled in a million directions with the Olympics coming up. We did a podcast together yesterday and preparing for our trip together to Paris, where we're rooming together on the cardboard beds, of course. So look forward to
it. Joel's probably not across that. Have you heard about the anti-sex beds?
That was the first time last Olympics, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, they're gone again, but they've gone the 6,000 condoms plus the anti-sex beds. So, like Matty said, no one knows what's going on.
That's a bit
there.
Contradictory, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Well, it is.
Well, like you just go. I mean, how old are the athletes? There's the thing about it. Like, you're telling, like, let's say, 25-year-old athletes, for instance, like giving them cardboard beds, saying, no. I mean, unbelievable. And the business about, and the business, Missile, you were saying about, like, I can imagine part of the Olympics experience. James is going over there and, the closing ceremony, the party afterwards. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And all the Aussie athletes, you're saying, get sent home straight after their event.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rank, isn't it?
New rule. Yeah, it is rank. Even for us going over to work in media, you want to... That's when you get to talk to the athletes. Yeah. When they're and for the athletes, that's when you get your name and face out there, because you can do the rounds, you can go on all the shows and talk to all the different media outlets from around the world after you finish swimming. This year, we're not going to have the opportunity to do that. So it's a bit disappointing.
Can I just ask you a question? Relating to the cardboard bed and the condoms, right?
How would I get around that?
No. How many athletes are partaking in such an act prior to an event?
Oh, prior.
Is there much of that or no?
Yeah, I explained this to Matty the other day. So you got tourists that are there, and they're the ones that aren't there to win medals.
Yep.
They're partaking, for sure. They're as soon as they get in the food hall, they're on the scout.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, whereas like most of the other athletes...
team events or...?
No, I'd say more obscure events.
Right.
Like your ping pong and,
okay.
I don't know, darts, whatever. I don't know what other events there are.
But whose decision was it, by the way, with the cardboard beds? Is that the International Olympic Committee, or is it just exclusive to Australia? What is it?
No, that's Olympic Committee. They've decided that that it's better not to have athletes doing. They said something along the lines of it was a distraction to other athletes in the village, or something along those lines. Basically, a noise distraction for other athletes trying to sleep.
Gotcha.
Did you ever hear the story? So this was back in. This is a good one. This is in I believe it was Rio. 2 Brazilian synchro divers, girls, and they're rooming together.
Oh no!
And only a couple of days before their event, one of the synchro divers brings a bloke back to the room, and they're up all night, and the other diver couldn't sleep, to the point where by the time they got to competition day, these two weren't talking. They had a massive falling out. Yeah. And so they were on a different page on competition day, so they were all off with their synchro dives. Yeah, it blew their medal chances.
No synchronicity the night before, no synchronicity the next day.
Didn't happen in our relay team, don't you worry about that.
Have a look at the cardboard beds. Mate, they honestly look so uncomfortable. And
that's the distraction.
Beyond the shagging, just sleeping in it.
Mate, something tells me the dream team won't be sleeping on the cardboard beds.
No,
I wouldn't have thought so.
I'd love to see a statistic, for sports and or athletes prolific in the second week. So give me a sport and a country for the most prolific second week antics.
Dalliances.
Yeah. Like off the top of your head, where would you go?
Well, I just go straight to the dream team.
I think they're too hard to get to.
Really?
Yeah. I'd go straight to like Swedish women's soccer team or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Doesn't matter what team they play for.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's excellent. That's just excellent stuff. Any thoughts on that, Matthew?
Triple jump.
Oh, yes. Okay, let's get things back on track. Chad Townsend, you like it or don't like it?
I don't fully understand it, Joel. I imagine they got someone in their sights who they just can't quite get hold of yet, which is interesting because if you have a look at the Dylan Brown get-out clauses, they sort of appear every couple of years. Or there's other players. There's been talk of Kalyn Ponga. I don't know if Kalyn has an out in his contract in any way, shape or form. But the Dylan Brown one, certainly he has. But the Chad Townsend thing, my original point, it's... Look,
sorry, Matt,
it's a part-time. It's a part-time signing.
What's going on?
Is Trish doing the beep test?
It's closing.
I don't know, honestly. Yeah.
Sorry, mate. Set restart. 6 to go.
No, it's all right.
Look at her go.
No, yeah.
She's pretending to do housework.
So I think Chad Townsend. It's really a 12-month, 2 years at most. They must be sizing someone else up.
Yeah, who is that? Is it Tamari Martin? Is it Lockie Galvin? Is it Dylan Brown? I don't. Who is it?
Mitch Moses. I reckon Mitch Moses.
Yeah. Well, see, this is the thing with the Roosters. They're so well run, and they keep things so tight that it doesn't get out. There's one of the very few clubs that if they're after someone, it doesn't leak out. It only leaks out if they want you to know.
Yeah.
There was a situation we only knew about the Sean Johnson one after he knocked them back. So. You know, behind the scenes they'd be working away. The thing about it is there are so many clubs who are desperate to sign players. Like the Bulldogs are still in the midst of their rebuild, even though they're fifth on the table and going great. You got the Rabbitohs who are trying to turn over and start a new roster for a new era, and you've got the Roosters amongst a lot of others, and there just ain't that many players around.
Who's your grand final at this moment?
I'll probably go, at this moment, I go Penrith Roosters at this moment.
Yeah.
Broncos are a team, they can sneak into the 8 and go on a big winning run and win the competition. But the problem, everyone's been talking about the Broncos saying, the Broncos, they're losing touch with the top 4. Forget about the top 4. If they lose tomorrow night, they're losing touch with the top 8. And they could fall down to 13th. And I'll tell you what was really interesting today, boys. Just a little thing that might have slipped under the radar a little bit. Lee Briers has been told by the Broncos that he's not needed for next year, I believe, who was the attack coach of the Brisbane Broncos. Now, I just wonder, is that Kevy's decision or a decision that's been made over the top of Kevy? Because Kev was the one that got in there, Lee Briers.
Wow, that's big. I didn't know that. Good fella, Breezy, too.
Great
fella. So sorry to hear that for him. He'll pop up somewhere. Might end up with a job back in the Super League as well after his time at the Broncos. All the fullbacks come back. Matty, Tommy's back. Kalyn's back. The big stars are starting to turn up at the right time of the year.
Yeah, they are. I'm surprised with they might be playing Ducks and Drakes with Tom, and I'll tell you why. Is because they've put young Kohler at fullback. So it would be nothing for at the last minute for Seeves to just do the switch around, or even during the game. Because what really surprises me about that is that Lehigh Hopewadi has been dropped. Now, in my opinion, I thought moving Tom to the centres was twofold. Number one, to preserve his body a little bit, but secondly, because Lehigh was going so good for Manly. But he's been put back. Kohler's been put at fullback. And Tommy in the centres, and as I said before, that just the way that's been done, I wouldn't be surprised for a late switch.
Matty, I'll say in a missile, and this is a ridiculous number. This guy's not a winger; he's a fullback. The last 31 wins Manly have had with Turbo, and they win about 70% with him. 31 wins with him. He scored 45 tries.
Oh man,
that is a stupid number, isn't it? Really.
Well, a couple of years ago, wasn't it, boys? Like he was just untouchable. I remember that try he scored against the Cowboys, where he spun, dodged, fended off. He beat about 9-10 blokes to score. That's once in a lifetime form.
Come lunchtime Sunday, has Billy got his team picked, or does he just need to see Kalyn Ponga?
I think he needs to see Kalyn. Do you know, Billy's comments, we're Queenslanders. There's no doubt what sits underneath that is the fact that we're not going to throw anyone under the bus or anything like that, but they're going to have to make some changes. I think the ones to keep an eye on are Kalyn Ponga, like you said before. There's no doubt. I think Selwyn Cobbo, if he's ready to go, he goes in for Xavier Coates. David Fafita I'd be extremely surprised, as surprised that he wasn't picked in the first place if this time around he isn't selected. And the other one to just keep an eye on is Beau Fermor. I know Billy's a big fan of Beau, and he's really started to hit top form with the Titans, so that wouldn't surprise.
We're still Queenslanders.
What about this bloke here tonight, Jai Arrow? If he comes out as a blind, I know he wants to have this operation. Is there any chance that Billy says, I know you want to have the operation, Jai, have you got one more in you?
Yeah, possibly, Joel, but I just think if I was Billy, I'm looking at some other guys around, and they're not carrying injuries, they're playing great football, and they're ready to go. So I think there's a line of blokes just ahead of Jai at the moment.
Have you guys heard the Harry Grant rumour that he's not good to go?
Yeah, there was a rumour coming through on the line here, and I'd heard it elsewhere that...
I read it on Twitter today, that he's busted and
Sternum
won't be able
concern.
to play. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm saying, would Reid Marnie get it, or would Kalyn Ponga just slot in at that 14 role instead of a Harry Grant?
Well, that's interesting because a member of our family was just down in Melbourne visiting over the course of the weekend. Hey, Cooper!
Oh,
Hey, Coops!
where's Ticket Man?
I don't know where
He's in a full outfit. Tell
Ticket
Ticketman,
Man.
I text Ticketman during the week and he didn't write back. Pretty poor form.
Oh, that's poor form.
Really poor.
He's changed a little bit. I saw him the other day sort of watching a bit of UFC, and I said, what are you doing? He said, I've got to interview a couple of the UFC blokes. And I said, do you want a bit of a hand at how to structure an interview? He said, no, I'm fine.
Just on the interviewing, I heard... I was listening yesterday when I was walking the dog to your interview with...
Backstage
with Brian Carney.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't listened to it, Joel, he's one of the great storytellers.
Oh, yeah.
A great storyteller. I hadn't really listened to Brian Carney before. I remember him at Newcastle for that season, but had never heard him tell stories. Oh, grouse.
Yeah. What a life he's led. Like, it's the most, probably, fulfilled's the right word, full life, I'd say, full life he and his family have led that is so different to any other rugby league player you've spoken to before. I mean, he first saw rugby league at boarding school in Ireland, sitting there, and it just came on. He watched it and went, geez, I like the look of this. And just he's bumped around. Eventually it led to Wigan, eventually to Munster and Rugby Union and the Knights and all these different, and along the way, some of, as Miss will say, some of the most outrageous stories. He's a super guy.
It was a Gold Coast Titan for a day.
Was he?
Joel. Yeah, he was there. I think he said he was their fourth signing, Matty. Turned up one day to training and just went, nah, not for me.
Really?
And flew home.
Yeah. He'd been at Newcastle and he pined for home because he's a guy, once he gets in Europe, like his family just spread everywhere. His father, like I've said before, if anyone ever is going to Hungary, go to a place right over in the Ukrainian border called Nyíregyháza. His dad owns an Irish pub there. And so, like, he's very much a European guy, and he just found, that after a certain period of time, the tyranny of distance with Australia. And he said they were there for the fourth ever signing. He said he got to the Gold Coast and he went, something's not right. Something doesn't feel right. Went to a training session. After the training session, they gave him this surfboard with number 5 Carney on it, and he was thinking, "Oh no!" So he put the surfboard under the arm, walked to Michael Searle's office, and he said, "Oh, you got the surfboard, fantastic, mate! Can't tell you how excited we are." And he said, "Searle, I'm going to give this back. I just can't do it, mate." He said, "Right, okay." Yeah,
wow.
What I was struggling to understand, Matty, I couldn't tell if he was just being humble. So he kept telling stories saying he was really struggling with the girls out here in Australia. But I was listening to this podcast, and I Googled him. Can tell a story, good-looking bloke. Was he actually struggling, or is he being humble?
Yeah. He keeps his cards fairly close to his chest, which is very un-rugby league. So I think he did okay. I think he did okay. But again, some of the stories, like going back to Ireland and playing for the Irish Rugby Union, he tells. I don't know if I said it on here. He tells a great story where he's playing for the Knights. They're playing the Warriors on a Sunday night. They've got to be up at 5 o'clock to get the plane back to Australia. So he said he and Joey are stumbling back about 11 o'clock, and righto, yeah, good night, mate. Boom, they hear this noise and go, what the hell's going on? They go over to this pub across the road from the hotel, and literally the entire Irish rugby union team are in there with all these Irish fans. And they went, mate, abort, let's go. So they went in there. And he said it was just one of the great nights. Anyway, Joey and the great Brian O'Driscoll, they're all locking horns having a drink. Anyway, Brian O'Driscoll lifted Joey up above his head. And someone from the Irish Times took a photo. On the front page of the Irish Times, it had that picture and it said, Brian O'Driscoll lifting an unidentified fan above his head.
Oh, I've not heard the chat yet with Brian.
Oh, you got to listen.
But I've heard most of the other ones. What would you rate? For those who haven't yet heard the Backstage, you need to podcast yourself and Coops and the team. Jack doing wonderful things behind the scenes as well. What would you say your top three at this stage are? It's only early, of course, but what are your top three interviews?
Oh, do you know, Joe, I wouldn't like to say, just simply because everyone has been fantastic. Missile was great, talking about his experiences with the Olympics. Then you had one completely different. You had Candice and Dave Warner. Dave talking about his career. Candice with the high-pressure environment of being a partner in that environment, in that cricket environment. And then you get blokes like Brendan Cowell and Matty Nable and so on and so forth. There's been some beauties. We did Amy Shark the other day, right? Which is going to be, it'll come out fairly soon. And a lot of people who listen to SN, I would imagine, wouldn't be huge Amy Shark fans, but it's fantastic. She is really good. She's a champion.
Wow.
I was walking along last night, Joel, with the dog, chuckling out loud with the headphones in, people looking at me. I reckon Brian was the funniest stories, definitely. He was a good storyteller.
It's really funny. It's like... And I think everyone listening to this can understand what I'm saying. Sometimes you just meet people and you just go, for whatever reason, whether it's chemistry or whatever, you just click. And when me and Brian first met, it was me hanging around after training. I was always doing extras. And he was still just learning the game. And he was like, can I join in with you? And, just learn a few things. And we just knocked around always an hour after training, doing very basic drills and talking about his role. And, we'd speak sometimes, and I said to him, of course you're an Irishman. What part of Ireland you're from? He said, my family's from Cork. And I said, well, that's amazing because my family's from Cork. And we had all these sort of similarities and things in common that we never knew. And it's just, occasionally you stumble upon people like that.
Amazing. I can't wait to dive into that Backstage.
And I tell you the other one I've got to say too, it's hats off to Australian Rugby League players. He'd never met Australians before, basically, and it wasn't until Richo signed him to the Gateshead Thunder and he went up there, went into the club, and he said they were just all Aussies. And I said, how did you find Australians? And he said, I just loved it. He said, I was just at home straight away.
Oh, beautiful. Just so charismatic and so likeable, isn't he?
Yeah.
Brian Carney, what a gem. As you are, Matthew, what's on tomorrow for Morning Glory?
Well, we've, I tell you, we'd like to talk about. We're going to touch on the Origin changes. Now, tomorrow it's supposed to be imminent that Parramatta are going to announce their new coach. I noticed that the old coach, Brian Smith, has expressed his desire at the last moment, but from what I understand, it's Josh Hannay or Jason Riles with Dean Young being a slight outsider. I know Baz is still sort of putting his hand up, but, mate, 1,000,000 to 1.
Wow, okay. That was fascinating, wasn't it? Brian put his hand up. Well done, Matty. Looking forward to Morning Glory tomorrow. Big show tonight coming up as well for the Matty Johns show after the game, which is South Sydney and the Eels. Now, don't stuff it up, Matty, because Sean and I are on after you, so we just need this lead in, okay? Just have a good show tonight. I'll do my best,
Joel. I'll do my very best. I'll get the boys up on their toes.
Yeah, get them up and about. Righto, good man. Matty Johns, Morning Glory tomorrow.